What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in with Callie. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already. So, Kawhi Leonard, we saw him play the other night against the Atlanta Hawks, his season debut. It's been a lot of days since we've seen Kawhi Leonard on the floor. It seemed like it's been a lifetime, but I mean, of course, it hasn't been that long, but it just seems that way due to the fact of, his injury status and, his injury proneness and things that come along with Kawhi. But we always sit there and keep hope, a lot of times because we know how good he is and the greatness of Kawhi overrides a lot, especially when he's on the floor, when he's available to, give us some of his greatness and for us to witness it and view it. But even though watching Kawhi in that game, he played 19 minutes. And I think the Clippers are really going to try to keep him at bay with the minutes restriction for a while, just to make sure that he's actually going to, progress the way they would like him to physically. And mentally, I think he's all there. But physically, I want to make sure he's intact as much as possible so he can try to stay healthy as long as possible. Because, of course, if you haven't been watching, of course, Kawhi has been injury prone a lot these last several years, and in the playoffs especially is when he's been injury prone the most. And really that's more or less the reason why the Clippers are going to probably keep the minute restriction for a little while on Kawhi, keep the leash on Kawhi, sort of say, for a while until they see him get to a certain point, or until he feels that he gets to a certain point to where he can tell them like, hey, I'm okay now. I'm fully ready to go, and I'm fully ready to, take on any challenge. And personally, I truly believe Kawhi is that way now. I truly believe that's Kawhi's mindset. He could play at any high pace, high level, 30, 40 minutes a game now. But I mean, I think the Clippers overall just want to take that precaution with him, and rightfully so, because you definitely want him to be at his best, in the latter part of the season rather than just the earlier part of the season or midway. And I think that was, of course, the issue last year. I mean, he played very good last year. He played all those games, 68 games, and he was like the best player in the league for more than half the season. You know what I mean? So we know what he can do. We know his greatness and all those things. But besides all that, his 19 minutes that he played in the game, he only scored 12 points. But the reason why the 12 points was so impressive is because the spacing on the floor was just so much different. It really was. I mean, guys had a lot more open shots. They had a lot more leeway, and the spacing on the floor on both ends was really actually different, which a lot of, analysts might not speak on. But that's just what Kawhi brings. Kawhi brings a different level of intensity when he's on the floor, and he brings a different level of respect when he's on the floor, because his presence alone just really makes things so much easier for so many players around him. They don't even have to be superstars. They could just be role players, as 90% of the players on his team are, besides him and James Harden. And, they still flourish. They still end up scoring 131 points. They still got anything they wanted offensively. Kawhi was, he hit like 3 or 4 3-pointers, and he was looking good with the shot. And of course, the Clippers just have to build upon what they have. That's the main thing they have to do. Just build upon what they have and keep everybody healthy. And I know that's probably a cliche thing to say, but I mean, really, that's the biggest point with the Clippers. It's been the biggest point with the Clippers this whole time. If they're able to stay healthy, they're able to beat anybody, I believe. I mean, I don't believe there's any team in the West that really would want to face them in a 7-game series if they're healthy. I mean, you could say the Dallas Mavericks, but the way the Clippers are locked down defensively, man, it makes them really tough. And now that Derrick Jones Jr. is going to the bench, because Kawhi's in the starting lineup, now they got defense coming off the bench at a high level, scoring. You got Norman Powell, who could still put up, get a bucket anytime. James Harden is going to get his assists even more now with Kawhi there, because Kawhi is just a walking bucket, just like Norman Powell is. So, I mean, he might get 10, 12 assists a night easily, and without even trying. And then on top of that, you got to factor in James Harden can still score too. So, I mean, like, when you look at this team, I mean, it's not really much not to like about them. I mean, they might not have this 3-4 superstars, but technically they do have 2. Kawhi is a superstar. I don't know if a lot of people look at James Harden as a superstar, but I'm pretty sure there's some people out there that does. Even if you don't consider him one or do, doesn't matter. He's still a star enough to help a team put points on the board and help a team's offense. He's still good enough to do that because he's still an offensive, prowess type player. He can't score at the elite level he once could, but the one thing about James Harden, he's always been good at assisting the ball along with scoring. I mean, I remember nights back in the day, on Houston, I remember one game, I think he had like 60 points with like 15 assists. You know what I mean? He's always been a great passer too. He's just been underrated in his game because his scoring was so good. But, regardless of all that, this team is really actually a lot more sound when Kawhi is on the floor, whether Kawhi is scoring a lot of points or not. So going forward, you might see him, play 20, 22 minutes a game and not play that much. But it doesn't mean he's still not a superstar. It doesn't mean Kawhi still isn't dominant. It doesn't mean any of those things. I heard some people say he's washed, he's this, he's that. That's just dumb. Kawhi is not washed. Kawhi is still the same player he was. He can still put up 25, 30 points a game. The jumper is still the same. He can still do all those things, but on limited minutes, he's not going to put up that many points because Kawhi is also a team guy too. He's not just trying to jack up 40 shots within his 19, 20 minutes of being on the floor. That's not going to help teams win. Kawhi is a winner. He likes to win. He doesn't like to lose. And you're losing by just jacking up shots with no type of goal in mind of winning the game. You know what I mean? So Kawhi is not that type of player, so we shouldn't expect that out of him. But I think as the season goes on, his minutes will go up and they will see more out of him and you'll see more out of him. And right now, if he's on the 19, 20-minute restriction, that's fine because if he can give you decent production, like 15, 16 points within that 19 minutes, somewhere in there, 14, 15 points, that's all you can ask out of him within that short amount of time. But within that short amount of time, he still brings a presence on the floor that makes the Clippers elite because with all the defensive guys that they have in general, even without him being there, you add him to the floor, it makes him even more elite defensively because Kawhi is the ultimate defender of all in the NBA. Nobody can defend at the level that Kawhi can, especially not the level that he once could defend at. So, I mean, there's no defender in the league like Kawhi Leonard who can score and defend at the level that he does on a consistent basis when he's on the floor. So with that being said, I mean, like I said, it's hard not to like this team the way they're built. It really is. And I just think that what I saw against the Hawks, even though the Hawks are not that good of a team to me, the Clippers still can be a very, very dominant team, and they can give any team in the West a run if they're in a 7-game series. Because as I always tell you guys, in playoff basketball, the game slows down more. You're playing more half-court basketball. It's not up and down, running, fast breaks, all that stuff like in the regular season. It's just not the same. And when you're playing half-court basketball, you be playing right into the Clippers' hands with all those defensive pieces that they have, and they will be getting a lot more easier baskets by stripping the ball, causing turnovers, along with Kawhi doing that as well at the highest level. And they got an extra elite top 5 player in Kawhi on the floor scoring at the level that he can, along with James Harden getting 10 to 15 assists, dropping 20 points at any point like he can. And if Norman Powell chips in with his 17 to 20 plus points, I mean, pretty much where I think he'll average during the season, maybe 20, 21 points somewhere in there as the season wanes out. I mean, who's really stopping that? Who's really going to want to face them in a 7-game series? Not many teams, because they'll see all the strengths they have on defense, and they're really not lacking anything on offense, of course, when Kawhi is out there, because you know what he can do. And the addition of, Norman Powell scoring, along with the addition if James Harden can get into the mix and score a little bit in the playoffs. I mean, wow, like they might be a better team than what they were previously constructed years before now.